to our dear students. Welcome to Teacher Catherine's English class. Today is another fruitful day as we are going to learn and have fun in our English lesson. By the way, I am Teacher Catherine B. Miranda, an English language teacher from Santa Ana National High School, Department of Education, Pampanga, Philippines. Are you ready to embrace a new learning opportunity with me? Let's go! For our recapitulation today, let's have our recap of our previous lesson. Last meeting, we talked about figurative language as a language that has an underlying meaning. Writers use them to build imagery and make words or statements fascinating and dramatic. Using them will give room for interpretation. For our targets for today, at the end of the video presentation, our learners are expected to first analyze the meanings of literal and figurative language. Second is to differentiate literal and figurative language. Third is to create sentences using literal and figurative language. By the way, our topic for today is anchored from the most essential learning competencies or MELCs of the Department of Education under the third quarter. Let us proceed. The words we use both in written and oral communication are forms of expression. The type of language we use depends on what we are trying to convey. Sometimes our goal is to be straightforward with our statements, and while at other times our aim is to make readers think or draw a conclusion. In this video, we will be pointing out the differences between a figurative language and a literal language. Kindly take a look at these samples of statements. Let us read them one by one. You are the apple of my eyes. Second is she's going through roller coaster of emotions. Third is my new friend is as curious as a cat. Nothing escapes her attention. What do you think? Are these statements? Are they literal or figurative statements? I have another set of statements here. Let's take a look at it. The truth hurts. I have a terrible headache today. Grandma's garden is full of lovely flowers. How about these statements? What do you think are these? Are they figurative or literary statements? As we move forward with our lesson, we will try to find out the answer to my questions. Okay, so what really is a figurative language? When we say figurative language, it uses different figures of speech to make our statements interesting, dramatic, and impactful, and to make them more persuasive to our readers to have a higher and greater impact. It is used to amplify our writing, and it goes beyond the literal meaning of the words to get a message or to point across. And as what is mentioned here, it draws an imaginary picture to the minds of our readers and listeners. It is usually used in literary pieces. Another thing about figurative language is that it refers to the use of words in a way that deviates from the conventional order and meaning in order to convey a complicated meaning. Figurative language is also more elaborate than the literal language, and this type of writing is commonly used in works of literature. Now, what are the types of figurative languages that can be used in our statements? First is we have the simile. It is a figure of speech that compares two unlike things or objects and makes use of the words like or as in our statements. It is used with the aim of sparking the interest of our readers. And an example for this is the statement here below, which says, "The boy was as brave as a lion in the jungle." If you can see the words "as," this is an indication that our statement is actually an example of a simile, making use of the word "as" in comparing two unlike objects. Here we are trying to compare the boy to a lion in the jungle. Okay, so next type of figurative language is what we call the metaphor. It is actually a direct comparison of two unlike objects or things without the usage of as and like. So if in the simile we are actually trying to make use of the words like and as, in the metaphor we are not going to use these words. And we have an example here below. "My mother has a heart of gold." In these statements, we're trying to compare the mother and the heart of gold. So there is a direct comparison of the two unlike things. Okay, so another thing is life is a scary roller coaster. Life and roller coaster are directly being compared in this statement. And take note, there is no use of the words as and the like. The third type of figurative language is what we call the hyperbole. So when we say hyperbole, it is actually an exaggeration created to emphasize a point or bring out a sense of humor. So looking at the examples below, we can see here, "I was so thirsty, so I drank an ocean." Definitely, this is an exaggeration. Another example is, "I tried answering the question a million times." So drinking an ocean and asking questions millions of times is actually an exaggeration. So that's why this is under the hyperbole in our figurative language. Next, we have the personification. In the personification, we are trying to give human qualities to inanimate or non-living objects. It's like putting human characteristics to objects that are not living. Okay, so examples of the personification are the tree dance in the wind. Of course, it's very impossible for trees to dance. And another example is the chair stood up straight and tall. So the chair is being compared to a person here with human qualities. Okay, next is the fifth type of figurative language is what we call the idioms or the idiomatic expressions. These are statements which mean something different from its literal meaning. Okay, so we have here examples. "I am too tired. I am going to catch 40 winks." Okay, so the word catching 40 winks is an example of an idiomatic expression. Another example is "teaching is my bread and butter." The word bread and butter is our idiomatic expression. And the definition or the meaning of bread and butter in its literal meaning is actually a work or what we do for a living. Okay, so let us proceed. So we now know that there are types of figurative language that we can use in our statements. So now let us proceed with the definition of a literal language. What is a literal language? It is a language distinction conveying exact meaning of words, and uses a highly technical terms which are used in explaining procedures and processes. As you can see, a literal language is very different from the figurative language in the sense that the language uses words which are exactly according to the conventionally accepted meanings or denotation of words. It is used to mean exactly what is written in a statement. No use of figures of speech, so it does not make any comparison at all, and it does not exaggerate or it doesn't understate the situation. That is a literal language. Okay, now going further. Okay, so let us now try to generalize our topic for today. So we are now aware that there are two kinds of, or two ways on how we can express our statements. So it's either in a literal or in a figurative way. So in a figurative language, we have different types. As we have mentioned a while back, there are 5 types of figurative language, and these are the simile, the metaphor, oxymoron, hyperbole, personification, and the idiomatic expressions, which are all very helpful for us when we are writing our figurative language. In the literal language, there is no need to make use of figures of speech. Okay, now here I have a very short activity for you. So let's try this one. It's an independent activity. Now what we're going to do is to identify whether each statement is literal or figurative. First sentence is, the water was rising in the river because of the rain. What do you think? Is this statement, is it a literal or figurative statement? Exactly. Number 1 is a literal statement. It makes use of a literal language. Second statement, her teeth are like stars because they come out at night. What do you think is this kind of statement? Very good. This is a figurative statement. Number 3, Mike was so angry that steam was coming out of his ears. Literal or figurative? This is a figurative statement. Okay, it makes use of figures of speech. Number 4, I've told you a million times to clean your room. Is this a literal or a figurative statement? Definitely, this is a figurative statement because as you can see in the sentence, there is this phrase a million times. Can you clean your room a million times? Okay, number 5, Mrs. Cruz sometimes gives us too much work. Is this a literal or a figurative language? Correct, this is a literal language. So I am happy that you have now mastered the 2 types of statements, the literal and the figurative statements. For our additional tasks today, we are required to produce a literal and figurative language poster with 4 to 5 statements. It can be either printed or an e-poster to be uploaded in your FB account. Identify your statement as literal or figurative, and there are suggested topics below, so you can choose from the 3. First is the impact of COVID-19, second, flexible learning, and third, the mental health during home quarantine. So it's up to you to choose among the 3. Now our criteria for evaluating your printed posters or e-posters are as follows. Use of literal figurative language. For grammar 5 points, creativity 3 points, and relevance to the topic is 2 points, for a total of 10 points. Okay, so that ends our presentation today. I hope you have learned many things in our discussion on differentiating literal and figurative language. Keep safe, everyone, and thank you for watching.